Hello, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to this round 2 elimination bracket match of the Crazyhouse World Championship 2020 between okei and MisterSir. So this is a double elimination knockout format. There were 128 starters in the main bracket. We're down to the last 32. The round is currently in progress this week. Some of us have already played in the winners bracket and down to the last 16, whereas in the elimination bracket they are also battling away to stay alive in the competition. So the loser of this match will bow out. Best of 10 games, 3+2 time control. okei has made the move on the board. I believe he's also streaming. He did originally have the title CWC Legion versus somebody. Hey, who are you playing, Legion? He's here in the chat. okei had your name mentioned in his stream title, but then he changed it to okei versus MisterSir. It looks like MisterSir is connected, and maybe he's just finishing off something, or I don't know whether d4 is a surprise on move 1 from okei. d4, d5, bishop f4. Right, so okei is what we would call a system-based player. He doesn't necessarily remember moves, but has certain systems, especially with white, which he always plays. Bishop f4, knight f3, e3, and so on. He would probably take that, I guess. No, knight e5. Okay, I'm not guessing the moves. What would I expect now? Bishop d3, bishop b5. All right. It shows how well I know this system, doesn't it? Not sure what to expect here. He's got to be careful of knight takes e5, that he doesn't drop a piece cold on b5. So perhaps knight takes d7. Defending the bishop, I suppose, is quite reasonable. Defending the bishop on b5. Now I'm still crunching away at something. I was having some pumpkin soup, which is typically not very crunchy, but I added some seeds and coconut chips and stuff, random stuff to it. Some sort of trail mix, just to give it a bit of crunch. I still got some stuff stuck in my teeth. Alright, we've done castle, knight takes e5. D takes, I would imagine, to be white's advantage, because whenever you inch closer to that square f6, it's generally in your favor. So trading probably doesn't change too much. I would take back on b5 if I was white, but he might be tempted to try and grab some material on d6 and calculate bishop takes f1, d takes e7. Yeah, this is a safe way. You don't really need to calculate anything. So you'd say okei is the slight favorite based on their current rating. I mean, most matches tend to stop once one side gets to 6 points. I saw there was a very funny match. Who was it? The Polish guy. You might think of his name before I can. Polish player who played GD Howard, and he got through, and the scoreline was 7.5, 6.5. Although it says in the knockout page 7-6, because it doesn't seem to take draws into account. But that was a very funny finish to the match, because GD Howard had a mate in 3 by just dropping a pawn with check, and then he went knight e7, knight f5, check, check, check a few times, maybe hoping to gain some time on the clock, and then it was a 3-fold repetition to end the match, and it could have gone even longer. It should have been 7-all. So we're going to see a queen sack. It's very tempting to sack the queen. Black is a long way from doing any damage. Could take on a8 and threaten knight at h6 check. You could also just go bishop takes g7. Both seem perfectly reasonable follow-ups. Yeah, so this is a brutal attack with the pawns and the minor pieces from okei. I think he should very soon take the first game. Still trying to think of that Polish player. I'll look it up in a second if I can't remember in between games. I think the word reminds me of attack or attacker or something. Is it attacker? A-T-A-K-E-R. There's a couple of guys with similar names who are around 2300, 2400. Or is it Atamek? A-T-A-M-E-K? Atamek? Could be Atamek who got through. Right, so what do we had? Knight f5. Desperate attempt to defend the g7 square. So okei's given a bishop. He's going to clean up that knight after king h8, pawn at g7, knight takes, takes, takes. With only 2 knights in hand, there may be no immediate mate, but as I said before, black is a long, long way from a counterattack. Bishop takes f1. You still need another move to get anywhere. So it's actually getting closer than it was before, because okei may need a couple of pawns to finish this off. So now he does have to be really careful. Like knight at g8, he may be thinking knight at g8, but I'm not so sure. Rook takes, knight takes, queen takes. Rook is really not the piece that he needs. And pawn at g5, the danger is running out of pawns. I would have taken it and then step back rather than stepping back straight away. It's an understandable decision because the bishop controls h5. But the bishop is the piece that okei needs, so you should step back king h8 if you're playing black here. That's it, alright. Now it's going to be interesting. How does okei pick up a pawn and not let the king escape? So you don't want to play knight takes h7. Well, it might work, but it's not the first move I would consider. Knight takes e6 is good. And I think black has to put something on g7. Or possibly rook g8 works as a defense. No defense in the short term. But there is knight takes d8 in that case. Although rook a takes d8, still no immediate mate. Yeah, I think there's too many threats. So queen at g8 the threat. If rook takes, then queen at h6 would have been even stronger. But this may be good enough. Oh, actually, yeah, he had a pawn. Queen at h6 would have worked. Threatening on both on g7 and h7 at the same time. Unless there was some counterattack with knight at h3, but you have to sack the queen too. Right, that's very unlikely. So knight takes g8, getting rid of one of the defenders. I wonder if he can do this all with checks. Probably still needs one more building up move. But he's got to be careful, he's given away too many knights. So now knight at h3 is a definite danger. Might as well put that's a very good move, queen at c8, covering h3. A very impressive move, I like it. Rook at e8, so now there must be a threat, even though I'm too lazy to calculate it. Suppose you got to cover f8 again, that's it. And pawn f6, another very accurate move, although rook takes g5, I'm not sure what happens after rook takes f8 check. Perhaps there was enough attack to get through after bishop at g7. So a bit of a time scramble, 4 seconds versus 1, black has to move. But he's dropping all his attacking pieces in defense around his king. Yeah, I think okei was going to win very soon. He just had to clear the knight out of the way, and black had no pieces left for the attack. So, an exciting game. Black had some possible chances to clear a bit more space around the king and not give okei so many diagonal pieces which he needed. Queen e2 check. I didn't catch the opening, but it looks a bit like in Exchange French, where black has dropped a pawn early on h3. Often you wait till you can pick up a knight before you do this. Let's see, is okay gonna... I was gonna say take a risk and drop a pawn on g2, but it's very likely that pawn's gonna be cleaned up after knight g5, so he's brought the bishop back to close the g-file. He did have to find some way to close the g-file. So does black actually have a threat? Is the threat bishop takes f3 and knight at d4? Does it do anything? Yeah, some sort of vague threat, so I'm just wondering if white has time for pawn at a6. Typically what you like to do, pawn at a6, undermine the defense of the knight on c6. Pawn at e6 is not the first move I thought of. What's the idea if f takes? Does he want to sack the rook and then... not quite sure. Actually, white can perform quite a few trades here. He could even start with bishop takes c6 check. So f takes is looking a little suspect. Bishop takes e6, what happens then? And does allow rook g7, of course. Castles, alright, so he really is confident that this g-file is going to be locked down, because if that bishop ever moves, yeah, a few trades is all that white will need to launch a devastating attack on the g-file, so got to keep the knight defending the bishop. So what just happened? F takes e6. It looks like white has picked up a piece, but he's very undeveloped. And now black is threatening a move like pawn at e4. And looks to me like he can play it straight away. So if white had two knights, you could potentially sack on f3, even sack a queen on f3. And then there's some knight at h6 check. But it looks like the black king is a lot safer than the white king at the moment. Still, it's very hard to decide what to do with the knight on f3. You don't want to move it and allow rook at g1 check and pawn at g2. But what choice is there? Oh, did okei mean to give the knight on g4? Was there a choice? Yeah, maybe he didn't have to take the bishop on d5. Perhaps take the knight first on f3. Now, I still think black is much better, because the rook at g1 looks deadly. Well, I mean, it's going to win at least another piece. Whereas the material is kind of evening up. That's also a very good move. Knight at d4. Could throw in rook at g1 anytime. So, a bit of a time advantage to okei. This is game number 2 out of a 10-game elimination Crazyhouse match in the Crazyhouse World Championship. So what it means effectively is that okei, what does it mean? He won a match, then he lost a match, and then this is his third match going into round 2. You can't quite tell if they lost their first match or lost their second match at this stage of the competition. Okay, is there a real threat with h takes g7? You can always defend via rook at g1 check, and again I'll come back to that move. Now, you don't have to block off your own file with pawn at g2, of course. Now you can choose a piece to take. Knight takes f3 check would be my preference. Even knight takes c2 is okay. I don't know whether I'd bother taking the queen. Actually, all captures are good. On second thoughts, but keep the rook on g1 for defense. Yeah, of course, the bonus of knight takes f3 check is, because then if the king is on d1, You could even then bring the knight back to d4 and threaten lots of stuff like bishop at f3. And I suppose the worry is hg, rook takes g7, pawn at h6. And do you save the rook? But then pawn at g7 is going to win a heavy sooner or later. Alright, so rook takes. Now, if you're white here, yeah, you'd probably just go for the attack and forget about the knight on e2. So this is at least going to make OK think how to defend, or how much material to give back, because he does have quite a few options. My preference would be to play a move like bishop to f6. And then it's quite hard to break through with the pawns, and the rook isn't doing much. Bishop at e5 seems quite decent as well. So what do we expect? H takes, bishop takes e2, and then it is black's turn. Black's turn to attack, and the counter attack will be fierce, starting with pawn at g2, I would guess. So the bishop is on f3. What's he going to do with it? Yeah, he's going to have to give another piece, you would think. Oh, there should be a force mate here with g takes f1 and knight at f3. That's it, mate in 2. No, it's not a mate in 2, it's king d3. But it will be a mate next move. Yep, pawn at c4. Okay, well done. Okay, 2 out of 2. Finish off my pumpkin soup. Alright, we're seeing a repeat with 95. Although black's moves are slightly different. Black's setup in the previous game with the same colours, there was knight c6 and knight ge7. So trying to copy OK, kind of, but the bishop is buried on c8. So you tend to find that playing d5 and e6 don't go well together. There are only certain circumstances when you should do this. Whereas if you play d5, generally you should bring the bishop on c8 out first. Or if you play e6, then, well, you don't commit to d5 too early. So knight d7. I'd even be thinking a bishop takes e4, d takes e4, knight takes f7, and then you have multiple threats, including bishop takes d6. Because for a moment you could make the bishop on d6 undefended with the right sequence of captures. Knight takes f7. Maybe OK is just trying to win the piece back with pawn at e5. Yeah, we'll see what his idea is very soon. Well, that's very risky, giving up a queen with such an open king, because there's already a mate in, oh, not a mate in 2-3. He has to get rid of the bishop first on f4. But yeah, once he takes that bishop on f4, there are some serious threats, holes everywhere on d6, f7, c7, e7. So yeah, many ways to play with white, but that's already an overwhelming advantage. White has already castled, got a safe king. Black will pretty much need a heavy piece to crack into there. What is this? Was it a slip? Knight g5. Hang on, what's going on? Did he click on the piece and then click on the square, like accidentally? And I'm sure he meant to take the rook. See, maybe he changed his mind and he wanted to take the bishop instead, but then just clicked on the square. Oh, well, I don't think it changes the evaluation, but that was a bit of a shocker, okay? G5. Yeah, I think... What do we have here? A queen and a pawn for 3 pieces. If it was 2 pieces, you'd probably just prefer the queen and the pawn, but... seems to me that all trades are good for white, because all he needs is, let's say, a bishop for d6, or a knight for b5, and then... Oh, actually the knight on e8 is quite a good defender at the moment. So I'm not sure whether knight takes e4 is good enough to set up a mate, because of the knight on e8 doing such a great job in defense. So defending the square where the king is on c7 is often slowing down your opponent a couple of tempi. What else? Could even try and sack a pawn via d5, and then knight takes, queen takes, bring the queen into action, open the d file. I don't know whether that would work. It all depends on how many tempi black takes with just the minor pieces to open this fortress here. So, d5, one of my suggestions, huh? But there were not too many ways to proceed that I could see. I mean, you really do have to use the pieces on the board as well as your extra queen. I mean, it's good to hold the queen back as long as you can for the right time to deliver checkmate. But yeah, very useful to use the pieces that are already on the board, because he's now already threatening queen at d6 and checkmate. So very awkward to defend. Perhaps king b8, or some other knight drop to cover d6. Can't really see it. Okay, he's probably just going to ignore that and go king h1. Yeah, no heavy pieces coming, I'm afraid, for MisterSir. I don't know, bishop at f8. Bishop at... No, that's not good enough. You have to defend the square d6 or pull the king back to b8. This is a mate in 2. Alright, 3-0 to okay. So, different opening. We had an exchange French structure in game number 2. I think this is pretty solid for white if he takes back with the G knight. This seems to be a double sound, maybe because the Lichess TV's on. Alright, so castles and f3 is a typical plan for white. Yeah, trading on c3 and putting the knight back on e4 is also an option. Actually, you probably should avoid e6. So it is good to include this move, pawn e6, otherwise white gets there first. So bishop at b5. What is the best way to defend the pawn on c3? Perhaps queen f3 in this case. Queen d3 seems a little bit vulnerable to a potential bishop at c4. Bishop d2 I guess is okay. Bishop, it does run into a bishop at b2. And the main threat in that case would be bishop takes c3. You don't really want to go for the rook on a1. Assuming white's going to castle. So anyway, no bishop at b2, so okay, he's playing more defensively with bishop at h6. I would assume he's trying to set up some sort of a trick involving the slightly loose pieces here. Possibly even knight takes... Oops. Yeah, I was going to even say the other order, but this works too. So picking up a pawn, it looks like bishop c6 is forced. Is that a free piece on b5? That does look like a free piece. Alright, so okey's running away with game number 4. I can't see a fight back in this particular game, or the match, considering the trend so far. So okey's displayed quite good judgment in most of these games to not allow any counterattacks, and made the right sort of defensive moves when he's needed to, considering the opponents seems to have a lack of heavy pieces in a lot of these games. Alright, I feel like it's about to be a brutal tactic involving knight at e2 check and pawn at f3, something like this. But there's just absolutely nothing that white can do with 2 knights to go anywhere near the black king. So pawn at f3 would be my immediate response. This is also very strong. Bishop at e4. I can hardly look. This must be about minus 20 something for black. Desperate attempt, but okay, I'm sure will be quite aware that he can sack the queen on f6 and attack first. So it's quite a pleasant choice, isn't it, to take the queen on d3 or knight at e2 check followed by bishop takes, and you just keep dropping diagonal pieces. There's no going backwards with the king. In that case, the king would have to come forwards. So does bishop d3 actually set up a mating threat? Let's see. Well, certainly if knight at f6, he'd have 3 knights in hand. But it does look like it. Knight at h3 check, g takes, knight f3 I guess would be fastest, and pawn at g2, knight h4, queen at g2. So there is already a mate threat even without the 2 knights on h5 and the one off the board. Alright, here we go. So 3 knights is just overkill. So if we take the 3 knights off and give them to MisterSir, then the game would be closer. Alright, so it's about to be for love to okey, and we'll see if he can pull off a clean sweep. 6 love. Yeah, it might be a short match, but if you do like watching bullet matches, there's about to be a Dutch qualifier, bullet qualifier, in about an hour and... No, hang on, it's only about 25 minutes now, in 25 minutes time. So we might see some Dutch GMs and IMs streaming the one of several bullet qualifiers, 1-0. So that will be a 1-hour arena coming up very soon on Lichess. I might follow that one, but I'll probably take a break as soon as this match is finished. So yeah, should be made in a couple. Queen at g2, queen at e4 also works. It's pretty hard to go wrong. And knight h5, there we go. So well done, okay, for love. So I did have a match earlier today, about 8 hours ago. But in case you do want to watch the video with commentary, I'm not going to show any facial expression or give the results away. But I will say that I had to do 3 times a voice recording because the program Movie Maker crashed twice. So I ended up wasting about an hour doing the whole recording twice. And then just as I was about to end the video and save it, the whole thing crashed and I didn't save the voice recording. So you could say today I'm kind of sick of hearing my own voice, because I normally check the video afterwards to make sure the sound matches the video and so on, which also doesn't correspond or coincide very well in the Movie Maker program. What do we got here? So again, we see, I think, one of the biggest strategical mistakes MisterSir is making is that he's leaving this bishop on c8. And of course, with these d4 structures, it's very hard for black to ever play e5. So I mean, he's making okay think about how to defend c3. If there are not too many trades, I guess it's okay to bring the pawn down to e4 like this into your half of the board and then just play around it. Not convinced whether okay wants to trade queens. Yeah, actually it's okay because it does come with a mate threat, and if black castles, white gets the first attack. So yeah, I was hesitating at first because I wasn't quite counting the pieces properly. But yeah, this knight at e2 check only trades a bishop, but the king is very safe on h1. Black will need at least an extra move to put the bishop on first before any threats are created. So okay should just go ahead and take the queen and put something on f6 or h6. So must take. And I assume he's going to go for the direct attack with knight at f6. Bishop at g7, knight h5. King has to run this way. Is he going to play queen at g7? I don't see an immediate mate. For example, king e7, queen f6 check, king d7 even, and then takes here, and the king's running away to c6 and b6. Alright, I'm sure there's a cleverer way to do this. You don't have to go for the obvious moves. So, alright, king h8. Any alternatives apart from bishop at g7? The other question to consider is, does black have a mating threat with two knights? So knight check here can be answered by king h1. Yes, Clanabee, there is CWC 2. And this is an elimination match. Our favourite streamer, okei, doing very well. I think okei has produced more Crazyhouse content in the last 12 months than everybody else put together. He's obviously doing very well here, 4-0. Just trying to decide whether black has any threats. It doesn't seem like it. I wonder if white could do a move like rook a d1 just to try and pick up some more material, because I don't think bishop at g7 is enough. Ah, there we go, rook a d1. Is it for love already? Yeah, it is. It is for love. I've been going for about half an hour. So obviously the rook is tied to g8. What else can we notice? Bishop d7. I don't like it, because the king is eventually going to need to run away this way via d7, c6. Well, actually, that's pretty hard with the rook on d1, isn't it? So if bishop d7, maybe you don't even need to bother taking it. You just go bishop at g7, take knight h5, queen at g7, king e7, and queen f6, king back. Alright, maybe you should take it. So bishop d7 is probably no good anyway. I don't know, let me just come back. So he played rook f8, but that's the escape square the king needed. I mean, at least play rook g8. Let the knight take it and leave it there and put something else on the board. Bishop at g7 or whatever. Or bishop d7 in that case. Alright, so unfortunately rook f8 was kind of a helpmate in 3. So 5 love, this may be the deciding game. And okei, he's actually had some very comfortable games with the black pieces. The game number 4 was just crushing straight out of the opening. Alright, we have an interesting setup with the knights on c6 and e7. But perhaps okei has misplayed this a little, because it doesn't look like there's a good response to pawn at h6. So okei is going to have to be really careful with the trades. So You don't really want to go pawn at g7 with a big gaping hole on f6. You can't go rook e8. How else do you cover this square? Maybe trade on e4 and then stick something on, or even play f6. You need to make some luft around the king with that hole on f6. You can't let white get there first. Because there's almost... Okay, it's good to pull the bishop back to e7. I don't think white should have allowed this. That certainly helps in defense. But probably if I was white, I'd just go knight at h6, take the bishop, stick something on f6, trade everything, attack the queen, keep plonking stuff on the board. Yeah, a bit like what he's doing now. Bishop at g5, bishop at e5 is also good. So white really doesn't have to think too much. It's black that has to be very, very careful in defense. Yeah, maybe it is already too late. Yeah, hard to suggest a square with the queen. Oh, actually, that may work. I was going to say bishop at g7, but it may work just as well. So the knight holds everything together, defending against the mate in 3 with knight at e7. Check. Hello, bunny. How are you going? Finish your homework. What do we have here? I wonder if knight at h6 is going anywhere. Or is it sacking too much? G takes bishop at f6. Some sort of blocker here. Take it. Pawn at f6. King takes. Knight takes h7. King g6. Could find a way to use the queen on the board in that sort of line somehow. Maybe as some sort of a desperado queen sack. I don't know. I'm living in fantasy land. But I'm not sure what this move is doing. No, but they're during a week. Okay. Well, okay, he doesn't have a heavy piece, which is the plight that MisterSir found himself in the previous game with the same colors. Yeah, the thing about defending is that you always at least want to try and put a piece on with some sort of a threat to the opponent's king, but if you don't have a heavy piece in hand, you can't see any heavy piece on the horizon, then it's very hard to defend. I'd probably just pick up the rook if I was white here. I mean, knight at f6, king h8, then knight takes... Actually, that's a better way to do it. Knight at f6 first, and then knight takes rook, and that's probably a forced mate in a couple. Well, okay, maybe he could hold on with bishop at h7, but it's a bit desperate, losing so much material. Pawn at g5 is also a very good move. Because very soon, knight at f6 check is going to be crushing, or, okay, do it this way. Pull the knight back. Queen h5 is interesting. That's a bunny move, queen h5. Not sure that's really that good after bishop at h7. But probably knight takes h7 is good. Anyway, that's another story. Probably knight takes h7. Oh, this is also good, bishop at e5. So I wonder if there's a checkmate by force after knight takes e5. I don't quite see it, but yeah, picking up another knight must be very useful. Clearcast has started a stream that I see. He's going to stream the Bullet Arena starting in about 15 minutes. So what's just happened? Bishop takes, queen takes, bishop at g6. Oh, devastating. Knight takes g6 check and mate. That's mate in 2. Yeah, it was inevitable. It was going to happen sooner or later. There's no surviving with no heavy pieces and no counterattack. So, right, MisterSir is off the mark. 1 game to 5. Exactly the same opening again. Alright, come on, do something with your bishop. Don't play e6 again. Cringe. E6. No. At least try something. Knight f6, bishop g4. You're just repeating the same sort of... He's going to be doomed to passivity for the rest of the game. Bishop d7. Right, at least this time he has the c-pawn protecting the bishop on d6. So there's no... I mean, you could still play knight takes f7, I suppose, before black castles. He might do it now. f3 is also good. Yeah, and it really does help that the bishop is still on the board on f4, because it doesn't seem to be any good way to sack the knight, which often black does find ways to leave the piece hanging and try something, but these pieces are just so blocked out. The only trick seems to be knight at h3 check, just to bust up the king side a little bit. What would I do here with the white pieces? What about king h1? Does anyone like king h1? I don't know. Queen e2. Just allow knight at h3 check. There's a bishop at e3 check. Maybe you can leave this knight here, dangling on d7. It's quite complicated because there are suddenly a lot of options for both players. I don't think you really want to block here. Knight at h3 check could be even stronger than it was before. Perhaps bishop at e3 first. Oh, it does allow f takes g5. So yeah, okay. So knight at h3 first, fair enough. Nothing wrong with just picking up this knight too on d7 at some point. So where's the king going to go? g2, probably come back and take f4. King f1, just go knight takes f2, looks good for black. So yeah, it's a waste of time to have to pull this knight back out of the way when the queen's hanging too. So that's why he really must capture here, which he did. There's no danger with queen h4, so should black just take another piece? Queen takes d7 and then try to set up some either pawn at e3 or knight at h3, whatever works. So I'm assuming okei is going to do something to cover the square h3. He put a bishop on h3. Bishop on g2 and try and come back this way. But I think black definitely has the edge, although the material is roughly equal. So where is the entry point? e3 is what I'm looking at. Is it worth sacking a pawn if you don't have a direct follow-up check? Even considering a move like c5. If pawn takes, then push d4, and that helps you to set up bishop at e3. And if knight at e5, then you can sack the queen via c takes d4 and then bishop at e3 again, and just put everything into the attack and hope for the best. Alright, what do we have? Bishop takes g3 check, h takes. So the idea of the bishop trade was to make a hole on h2, but is that really useful, the hole on h2? He doesn't have to sack the queen. What about just going king g1? Knight takes g3, pick up the rook, or probably best to sack the rook first. Rook takes h3, for example, and then knight takes g3. I mean, I think black is giving away a lot of material. It has to preserve something. You can't just give away everything. The holes are not enough to win just by themselves. You need to put something in there. You can't give away all your pieces like this. And bury the rook on h2. So I really feel like he should have tried to find a way to get through via the square e3 instead of going this way. So there's now, yeah, pawn and 2 bishops, just not enough. Knight takes g3, yeah. I don't even see what his follow-up is. Bishop at e3 check, king g2. So white could possibly take the time to attack via knight at e5, or there's nothing wrong with playing safe, like knight at g4 also sets up potential knight at f6 check. Probably I'd go knight at g4 in a real game. See, the king here always has a choice which colour square to hide on. If MisterSir puts the bishops on the dark squares, then you can always just play king g2. The knight's going to be loose as well in case there's a bishop at h1 check. So there's a lot of defensive options here for okey. He really should win this game quite easily. Rook at g4, defending backwards. Can't really see anything wrong with it. And maybe his aim is to threaten g7. He could probably just take g7, threaten knight at f6 check. Looks good to me. Yeah, only pointy pieces. Daggers and spears. Can't do much with those with the king on g2, I'm afraid, MisterSir. So it's a good move, bishop at f6. Because, oh, the rook. Was the rook mating on f2? It must have been close. Ooh, yeah, you can't go back if you got a pawn and a knight in hand, so probably should have picked up the rooks and sacked the queen and went for the mate. King would have to go forwards. Anyway, not entirely sure. So black is fighting back. Okay, spent a long time on that rook at g4. So bishop at f3 now. Okey's turn to attack the queen, but he sacked the queen, but he doesn't have a check. Knight f3 is the main threat. So just king d8 and knight f3 is mating. He has to play a move like bishop at g2 in defense. If black wants to, he could save the queen if there's nothing better. But why not just knight f3 check and take and threaten queen at h1 mate? Ooh, exciting. King c8 is probably not good enough, gets mated. Yeah, pawn at e7 may be the best try, but could okey have just sacked the bishop? Bishop takes e7 check. Yeah, I felt like that should have worked. But let's stick to the live action. There's a knight in hand. What about, again, knight at f3 check? Oh no, you can't go back. There's g1 as well. The first rank is still not open. So what about knight c3 here? Okey's going for it. Ooh, a draw will be enough. King a7 was possible there in defense. King a7. There's no more checks. King b8 and then king a7. So he's going to be safe on a7. Head for a7 and then the game is still alive. It's an exciting one. Yeah, rook is not enough. Not enough for okey. There's still a mate threat. He should have dealt with that mate threat a long, long time ago. Alright, there's knight at f1. What is he doing? The g2's covered. Like, this queen f1's not working. That was just a waste. But still the black king is safe. I mean... Oh, this is chaos. What's happening? Bishop at g1. Rook at e3. That's mate. Bishop at g1. And then the king has to go this way. Can't pick up the bishop. I don't get it. I don't understand. What's he doing? Pieces are not coordinating with the knight sitting here on e2. It's a shame. It's a shame. Running out of time to lose the series and be knocked out of the competition. But let's have a look. I was calling for the move bishop at bishop at g1. And if king f3, rook at e3, looks like mate. And if king e1, then we still have a rook, 2 pawns, and a knight. Surely there's a way to use that bishop instead of throwing it away. Not sure whether you want to play pawn. Probably pawn on f2 because you can promote if king d2. You could promote to a knight with check. And I can't see the king is getting away anywhere. Yeah, you just seal it off with pawn at c4 if it goes up. So bishop at g1, king e1, pawn at f2. If king this way, and there's discovered check, double check, or rook at c1, and then some knight check, rook d1. Must be lots of ways to mate. So I think that's something like mate in 6 for black, or mate in 5 for black, with bishop at g1. Just a guess. But yeah, very exciting last game to finish. It was a 61 move game. Actually, yeah, it was. And then black flagged after 61 moves. So final result is 6-1 in favour of okei, our favourite streamer. And he's through to what we call round 3 of the elimination bracket. Some people call it the losers bracket, but I guess that's only the people who are still in the winners bracket. So browser display, what do we got here? Let me show you the knockout draw. So the part where we're up to the elimination bracket round 2. Let's find okei. Here he is. Right down at the bottom. He moves on to round 3 of the elimination, and he will play the winner of Morlock and Turkmen player. Played sometime in the next 3 weeks or so. And the winner of that goes on to play Advocat, who must have lost in round 3 of the winners bracket. And I'm a bit hesitant to go to the calendar because it might. I'm trying not to show my result because I did make a commentary video. Okay, he's posted it in the chat, but if you do end up watching this video before the other one, I'm still not going to tell you what the result is because you don't see the chat on the YouTube video. So I have posted a commentary video on YouTube, which I had to make 3 times because the program crashed twice after half an hour of the voice recording. Okay, maybe you can tell me, is the result on the calendar page, you know, the team up calendar page, because I can show that. Otherwise, to display the upcoming matches, we have quite a lot of exciting matches coming up very soon in the next 24 hours or so, or the next 30 hours. And the Dutch Bullet qualifier is just about starting now. Clearcast is streaming. Also a very popular Crazyhouse player and competitor and streamer. So you can go follow Clearcast. So okei, did you hear me? Are you still here? Are the results displayed in the Crazyhouse calendar? The team up? Because otherwise I'll just show it now on the stream. No results there. Alright, let's have a look. So my match earlier today was Mugwort versus Die Blaue Zaal. And if you would like to have a look at the YouTube video without seeing the results, you can at least pretend you were watching the match live. There weren't too many people. Yeah, that's right. So okei, saying you can also see the calendar on zhchess.blogspot.com. He's posting it in the chat. What else? I think the Dark Affliction Le Professional match was postponed, as was Cubes versus Plotkin. So okei won 6 games to 1, and he moves on to play probably Morlock, who only just lost to CIW. So the most exciting match coming up very soon would be in the winners bracket, Chicken versus Duchess. So with rating difference of around 200 or so, you're always going to get a fairly close match. I mean, obviously Chicken the favourite, but it'll be a good one to watch. 3 AM Sydney time. It's in about 5 hours from now. Can't guarantee to watch that one. 3 AM is a little bit late. But actually there's nothing for me going on in the morning, so I don't think I'll stream that one, but I may Depends how quietly I can talk when people can still hear me. So MRT versus Variant Bunny, 8 p.m. This is in the elimination bracket tomorrow night. It's in about 24 hours minus a couple. Okay says he didn't deserve that last game. Well, I mean, okay, I'll post it to YouTube, so you're always welcome to look at my commentary during the game. I'm not sure how much I can teach you about 1d4 systems, but you can hear my thoughts anyway. I was a bit surprised that MisterSir kept burying his bishop on c8, which I thought, as I said in the video, was in the streaming, it was a positional mistake. He was making the same mistake every game. But yeah, you're right. I think you didn't deserve to win that last one. I mean, yeah, it was back and forward. Both of you had a lot of chances, as you would expect in a 61 move game. But I thought just bishop at g1 should have been mating for him at the end, instead of sacking a bishop with bishop at e1, and then there's maybe no clear follow-up. What else do we have coming up on Monday morning Sydney time? And there is GSVC versus CIW, who put Morlock in the elimination bracket. That's 1 a.m. Monday. Would really like to stream that one, but again, if it's 1 a.m, can never guarantee. It's a lot easier for me during the day. But then, of course, if it's 1 p.m. my time, like this match here, it means that there weren't too many people watching it live, because it's not a good time for Europeans, of course. The Lone Wolf versus Jasugi, another exciting match. We're going to see Jasugi probably throw in some random openings and try and avoid the wolf defense, and try and avoid playing into e4, e5 sort of stuff. Anyway, it'll be quite interesting to see how Jasugi avoids preparation, because he does seem to do it. Seems to be a match strategy when he knows his opponent's preparing, and he'll just throw out some random stuff and get them out of book in move 3 or move 4. Some crazy gambits as well. Okay, that's about all coming up, but plenty of other matches in the knockout bracket. I'm not going to scroll up because some of the results are already there, but I may end the stream here and hope to stream some more matches this weekend. I believe Legion and Fishy Vishy have also set up a Swiss Crazyhouse tournament. It is posted in Discord if you'd like to have a look there, the house Discord. And I'm not sure if that's the only way to find it, or if there will be a forum post on Lichess about the upcoming beta test for the Swiss tournament. That will be quite exciting. So, okay, last few times I've checked, my round 1 match wasn't in your list. So it's on YouTube. It's in the section with all the Lichess World Championships, if you could just check that one. So round 1 match against I'm Lapis, and there's also another one against Die Blauer that I posted today. Oh yeah, I mean, there's no rush. It's when you're collecting videos, you got all the time that you need. There's no rush with that. So it's good you had the time to play your match today as scheduled. I always appreciate that. It's one of the things that streamers do, always appreciate people being on schedule. So we'll say thanks for watching, and goodbye for now, and hope to catch up soon.